You have this situation where you have people arguing that the irony of this performance is that it's now potentially put people in real danger. With people pointing to Barbara Butch, for example, a French DJ and LGBTQ activist who was in the performance, saying through a statement from her lawyer that she's been threatened with death, torture, and rape. Also saying they've been targeted with numerous anti-Semitic, homophobic, sexist, and fatphobic insults. Also with that, announcing that she'll take legal action against people who seek to intimidate her. And so with all that, one, I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts regarding that whole controversy and scandal? But then also, too, while you're maybe leaving that comment, I want to talk about another big thing that's going down with the Olympics, and it's about the concern around security. Because, just today, there's been what's been described as another act of major sabotage in France, with this one being against fiber optic networks, and according to the police, it affected at least 6 of France's administrative departments. And notably, this includes the city of Marseille, which is hosting football and sailing competitions for the Olympics. Also, the reason I say another attack is because on Friday, we saw French rail lines disrupted by coordinated sabotage ahead of the opening ceremony, with arsonists targeting installations along high-speed rail lines connecting Paris with the country's west, north, and east. And even though rail workers happened upon one of the teams of saboteurs in the middle of the night and chased them away, 3 other attacks were successful. And they have had a massive impact. Around 250,000 passengers were affected on Friday. And by the time the traffic returned to normal this morning, around 800,000 customers had faced disruption. And so with that, you had France's transport minister saying, 1, the cost of the attacks would very probably amount to millions of euros, and 2, that considerable resources have been put into place to strengthen the surveillance of the 5,000 miles of the high-speed rail network, with the state-owned rail operator describing it as a massive attack on a large scale to paralyze the network. The country's interior minister also described the attack as very precise and extremely well targeted. He also had the head of the region that includes Paris and its surrounding areas saying clearly this attack is not a coincidence, saying it aimed to destabilize France at the moment the Olympic and Paralympic Games are launched. And as far as who is behind these attacks, there's no shortage of speculation, I can say that. You have the Israeli foreign minister claiming the sabotage of railway infrastructure across France ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympics was planned and executed under the influence of Iran's axis of evil and radical Islam. Though really, it seems like most people's money is on Russia, right? Especially as France has been one of several European countries impacted by a wave of sabotage attacks that have been linked by officials to Russia. Back in April, you had the French president saying he had no doubt Russia would target the Olympics this summer. In fact, with that, French authorities have recently arrested a Russian citizen in Paris, accusing him of preparing destabilizing events during the Olympics. But also, this is a key thing, at least with the railway attack, we saw the interior minister suggesting that far-left activists were behind it, telling French TV, "This is the traditional mode of action of the far left. We must be careful. The question is whether they were manipulated or it is for their own benefit. There are people who can approach this movement." And in fact, today, you had authorities arresting an alleged far-left extremist, someone who reportedly had access to keys to the railway operators' facilities, tools, and far-left literature. But then at the same time, you had officials saying it was unconnected to the disruption on Friday, with them also adding that no one has been arrested so far in the investigation into the arson attacks. And so with that, you had the interior minister warning against jumping to conclusions because the perpetrators could have been manipulated, with of course the unsaid thing there being by Russia. But of course, all of this is a developing situation. There are investigations, more information to come, and so we'll have to wait and see. And then in big internet drama news, let's talk about Cody being in the news for 3 reasons. Right, the first of which we've already talked about, and it's led to the other 2 updates, but you had Tana Mojo accusing him of having sex with her when she was 17 and he was 25. But then those allegations spreading further and further across the internet, there's been mounting pressure for him to speak about the situation. All of that leading to then the second headline that Cody mid-silence performed a DJ set in Vegas, which despite the drunken fist pumping that happened there, did not go over well on the internet. So all of that led us to headline number 3 that Cody finally addressed the Tana Mojo allegations. Kind of. With him over the weekend loosely touching on it in a memo to employees of his podcast network, Tiny Meat Gang Studios. With that memo signed by him as well as co-founder Noel Miller, saying, "We wanted to let you know that Cody will not be involved in the day-to-day operations at TMG Studios. What has transpired over the past few weeks is a personal issue for him, and Cody wants to remove any effect this is having on your professional and personal lives and the work you and other hosts have done to make TMG Studios so successful." Also saying, "We know it's been a very strenuous few weeks for everyone, and we really appreciate your willingness to bear with us." And adding that Noel will lead the team going forward. Right, and so there are a few things to mention there. 1, that message was also shared with paid subscribers at TMG. 2, it obviously didn't mention Tana by name, or Cody didn't actually say anything about the actual allegations, just discussing his position at the company. 3, that statement has gotten some backlash, though for a few different reasons. Right, some think that it was wrong for him to put this behind a paywall, accusing him of trying to minimize the press around it. Though there, you have others pointing out that non-subscribers can view that statement, but they would need the link to it, and only subscribers could see the comments. Though of course, others have countered that the point still stands that it was posted on a subscriber platform, not a public-facing social media account where it would gain viral attention. We also saw some take issue with the fact that more concrete action wasn't taken, or with people pointing out that it just says he won't be involved in day-to-day operations, but it doesn't go as far to say that he's out of the company. And so you had people saying things like, Cody is clearly still involved, but just not in the public view of things, and saying continuing to support them in their podcast is continuing to support Cody. What a lame response. Though of course this is, you also had others saying, they don't want to hurt the other podcasts that are in this network or the other talent. But then also, notably regarding this aspect, you had outlets like NBC News noting that this comes as the emergency intercom podcast podcast, which TMG acquired back in May, they actually left the network around a week ago as the claims against Cody were blowing up. So there's been a lot of speculation there. Also, notably, Cody's lost 270,000 YouTube subscribers in the last 30 days. And if you hop to his Instagram, it's flooded with comments saying his silence has been too loud. And all of it seeming like this situation and the pressure Cody's facing, it may be far from over. Well, that silence for many people has been a massive strike against Cody. You also have others pointing to things like Time Magazine, previously speaking to a communications professor at the University of Southern California about all this. And she said, he's in a very complex and very threatening legal situation right now. Because of the immediacy of the digital age, people want immediate comments, reactions, atonement, and accountability. And saying the people that we're demanding these statements from have to listen to their lawyers first about whether or not making any statement would cause them either legal peril or amplify the scandal. And so with all this, with different corners of the internet saying different things, I want to pass the question off to you with where we are right now. What are your thoughts and feelings with everything that we've seen, this response, and what you think's forthcoming? And then, I've never felt healthier than the last 2 years, bro. And you know what? He was right. Since taking Armor Colostrum, I really have felt better. So thank you, Armor Colostrum, not only for sponsoring today's show, but because you really made a difference for me. Because colostrum is a dairy bioactive whole food produced by all mammals in the first 48 to 72 hours after giving birth, containing vital, powerful nutrients our bodies need to thrive. And Armor Colostrum is physician-founded and delivers the power of colostrum optimized for the human body. Right? It's delivered in a digestible form of 400 plus functional nutrients like peptides, antibodies, and antioxidants that support your cells, gut, immune system, and so much more. And it works by strengthening your body's internal guard against environmental threats, and I've noticed my immune system staying strong despite being around my germy kids. Plus, an added bonus, I also feel like I've noticed leaner muscle mass, decreased muscle soreness, and overall quicker workout recovery, which has definitely been nice because I recently started weight training. That's really where I've noticed it the most in my post-recovery time and really just my overall health. I just pour this into cold water or even my smoothie, sip, enjoy, and let it go to work. So head to tryarmra.com/DeFranco to level up your health and use code DeFranco at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Just click that link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And then, so let's talk about this controversy around Trump, Christians, and voting. Right, and all of this is centered around comments that he made at the Believers Summit in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's this gathering of Christians organized by the conservative group Turning Point Action, and I'll just let you listen.
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again.
And actually, importantly here, I want you to listen to that last part, but with another added 2 seconds.
You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Okay, so the reason I played the first clip and then added a little bit with the last 2 seconds is, depending where you went online, there have been different versions posted. And according to some of Trump's defenders, those 2 extra seconds are the difference between the clip being Trump saying he's going to be a dictator and apparently something else. With the Trump campaign, for example, claiming that the former president's words were actually about how he would unite the country, with a spokesperson for the campaign specifically saying he, quote, was talking about uniting this country and bringing prosperity to every American as opposed to the divisive political environment that has sowed so much division and even resulted in an assassination attempt. But then this also, as other Republicans gave different explanations, where you had New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, for example, saying it didn't mean anything. But then he also said, I think he was just trying to make a hyperbolic point that it can be fixed as long as he gets back into office and all that. You also then had Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton say, I think he's obviously making a joke about how bad things had been under Joe Biden and how good they'll be if we send President Trump back to the White House so we can turn the country around. And then finally, you had childless cat lady Lindsey Graham laughing it off, saying,
Senator, just a minute here, quickly. Yeah. Democrats say the former president is trying to take the reins of the entire democratic system here with these comments. You're laughing. What do you believe he's trying to say? What's the truth?
He's trying to tell the Christian community and anybody else who's listening the nightmare that we're experiencing will soon be over. Give me 4 more years and I'm going to right this ship called America and pass it on to the next generation.
Of course, all of this is we're seeing the Democrats saying that Trump should be taken at his word. With, for example, Adam Schiff, a California congressman who's now running for Senate, sharing the clip on X and writing, this year democracy is on the ballot, and if we are to save it, we must vote against authoritarianism. Here, Trump helpfully reminds us that the alternative is never having the chance to vote again. You also had the Harris campaign calling Trump's remarks a vow to end democracy, and saying when Vice President Harris says the election is about freedom, she means it, and adding our democracy is under assault by criminal Donald Trump. After the last election Trump lost, he sent a mob to overturn the result. And saying this campaign, he has promised violence if he loses, the end of our election if he wins, and the termination of the Constitution to empower him to be a dictator to enact his dangerous Project 2025 agenda on America. And then, of course, a list of reactions just go on and on. But I mean, I guess with that, I want to pass the question off to you. 1, what are your thoughts on those comments in general? And Two, do you think the extra 2 seconds changes anything of what he was saying? Let me know what you're thinking and why. And then President Biden, who, by the way,